What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning into the Mishmash podcast. Today, my guest is Sha Parland, Ocean Tackle football coach, Neptune travel basketball coach, and AAU basketball coach. And coach of the year, in my opinion, man.
Hey, listen, I don't try to be the coach of the year. I just, try to just get out there for the kids, man. That's the biggest thing. I love working with kids.
So unfortunately, I've been able to catch only one of Princeton's tackle games.
Okay.
But it was wild seeing like that side of you on there, right? Because
Yeah.
like, I don't know, with basketball, I could always see the fire and the passion and everything, but it's different. Like on a football field.
Yeah, it's more, it's more gritty, and it's complicated more because you got to dealing with 11 kids on the field.
Yeah.
So you just try to calm them all down, stay focused, keep my coaches focused, and just execute. That's it.
And that was, I think it was a playoff game that we came to, and it was a heartbreaker because you guys it was up and back. Tough. And now listen, your son Princeton is, I think, the same age as Jackson. No, he's a year younger, right?
Yeah, he's a year younger.
So he's a year younger. But he's still one of like my favorite athletes in general. Like I love watching that kid hoop, and that was the first time I got to see him on the football field.
Yeah.
And I mean, he hit a couple of these kids. So the funny thing is, from watching him move on the court, basketball wise, I just sort of extrapolated. I was like, oh, if he was like a running back, because I didn't know what position he played.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, he could hit it, and he did. He broke a couple ankles on his way to the end zone.
He's a big boy. And I always say that football and basketball, go hand in hand because it's footwork and a lot of agility work. But at the same time, it's like taking a basketball, you got to dribble it. Now football, you just carry it and you just go. So it's a different stage. It's a different stage.
Well, and I would say both sports are pretty cerebral, right? And I think people who aren't really into football don't appreciate like how much scheming goes into it, how much of it happens up here versus anything else.
It's so mental, and that's the part about that people don't understand. Like, sports in general is definitely a thinking game. But when it comes to football, though, it's just like you said, you have to break down schemes and just lay out your plan and just go for it.
Right, and there's different philosophies, I think, for each sport, but obviously there's stuff that overlaps, right? And what you brought, I guess, to sort of roll it back a little bit. So we met through an AAU program that Jackson had played for, and for context, I think Jackson spent 7 seasons with the program and had 8 different head coaches.
Yes.
And listen, I love everybody there to death. The guy who runs it always did right by Jackson.
Yes,
like I'm real happy with everything that happened there. But out of all those coaches, you were by far our favorite. Not just like me and my wife, but Jackson too.
Oh yeah.
And part of why was you brought the football mentality with you to basketball. And what I mean by that is like you expected a lot of them. You expected toughness. You demonstrated it, and you brought accountability. And that's something that I think people don't really appreciate about football. Is if you dog it on. There was one kid that we had on our team. I think you've had him in AAU, maybe travel, whatever. Okay. There was one kid that would get real down real quick. Like if his shots weren't falling, his body language was terrible, and he would fall off. Right. That's basketball. You're standing at the one end of the court. Now it's 4-on-5. It's not a big deal.
Yes.
In football, if you take a play off because you're upset, you could be hurting somebody.
Yes, definitely you hurt the team. Because football is a lot of physicality that goes with it, and when you're out there, you just want to push the kids. Push them to the limit. You don't want to push them. You don't want to. I'm a big yeller. I am, I like to get the kids up, get them going. But at the same time, you just got to calm them down and get them focused. And that's the biggest thing. And when kids put their heads down, I always tell them, it's okay. It's okay. It's the next play. Let's move on. And that's life. You're going to fall. It's how you get back up, how you react to the situation. And just, you have to move on, because if you don't and you stay in that same mindset, what are you going to do going on the next play? I don't care if you fumble the ball. I don't care if you miss a shot. I don't care if it's a game-winning shot. What else did you do? Did you play defense? Did you get steals, rebounds? Did you, it's all other things, because you have more. It's just not you out there, all right? So if you're just out there by yourself, of course you have to be accountable, for the things that you do. But when you have a team out there, you have other people that you can rely on. So, sorry about that.
Nah, so
But you got other people that you can rely on, and you have to be able to get focused and get back and help your team.
And that's, to me, the biggest difference between basketball. The only sport I can think of that's close to it is probably basketball and hockey, where you don't really have time to sulk, right? Or to react to whatever just happened because it's so fast paced and it's just, like you said, on to the next play.
Yes.
Football is where it's tough because, like you said, let's say there is a fumble. Well, guess what? Let's say you guys were about to punch it in from the one,
Yes.
and that's where you fumble it. You got to wait the entirety of that next drive. So it's harder to keep kids motivated and not to let them get down on themselves. And like I said, I saw you, sort of navigate that. It's funny though that you mentioned the yelling because I was going to say how nice it is to hear like your regular voice because usually by the end of the games, you were like Doc Rivers at like a post-game presser, right?
And no voice.
Yeah.
No
it's just,
voice.
it's gone. I don't remember when I made the connection because obviously the Clippers weren't really in the playoffs a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah.
But there was one point where like we had a game and then I got home and I watched the Clippers game, I guess, or whatever. And I heard it and I was like, oh my God. I just listened to that for, 25, 30 minutes. But I'm glad that you mentioned the yelling part of it too, because that's, you do it in a constructive way. Like, because I think people have this misnomer, and this is what I was saying just before we popped on, right? About like giving parents information.
Yes.
I think some people are too worried about having a coach who yells or whatever. Like, I'm not about shielding or sheltering my kids from anything, because to me, from a parenting standpoint, it's about equipping them for life, which you mentioned too.
100%.
And when you shield them and you hide them away from things, then the assumption is that they're never going to encounter whatever it is you're protecting them from, but that's not how it is. And you don't want them to be a teenager or an adult facing adversity for the first time. Like, I'd rather them, like you said, in the real world, you have a coach as a kid who might be a yeller. You're going to have a boss who's not going to be all, friendly and up your ass.
Exactly. So it's like, I have a game plan how I do it though, because it's when I yell, I'm emotional. I'm on the court. I like in basketball, I love to press. I like to make other teams uncomfortable.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, what I'm saying? I like, that's my style. And, I always like tell the kids, like, when we get up, I like, get up, up. That gets them going. That gets them hyped. They love it. It's like getting their blood going. And, they go out there and they execute. So, but it's not like a man-to-man. It's like zone. And I love, I love zone. I know everything is like NBA now where it's man-to-man. But when you can watch a team move as a unit, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And, everybody's have each other's back. And, it's great. So, but the yelling part of the aspect is, you want them to realize, like, okay, I just did something wrong. But it's not like going to be like, Matt, come on, let me talk to you for a second, this and that. I'm like, listen, I'm up in your face and I'm gonna let you know what you did wrong. But then in the sideline, I'm talking to you. I'm pulling you to the side. And, again, it's not always yelling just I want them to get themselves back into the groove of the game. Because a lot of times, like, I have this one kid on my travel team, and he just, every time he doesn't do anything right, he just goes, puts his head down, and everything's like the world is like going crazy for him. So I'm like, listen, I realize, like, you know what, I can't yell at him too much because it's just it's the part that you want the kid to realize, like, it's okay. You're going to make mistakes. Get back up. Let's get back into the game. And you know what? Get back on defense. Like, took a shot, and he missed the shot. He thought he should have got fouled, and he's walking back on defense.
Oh, man. Cardinals in.
What are you doing? And I get it. Everybody wants to make every shot. Everybody wants to make all these threes. Everybody wants to be the man through this. It's not going to happen. But what you are doing by not getting back on defense, you're hurting the team. You're hurting your brothers that's out there fighting with you. So,
yeah. And what I like about it too is it's always constructive. And again, there's definitely this movement towards like hypersensitivity, with how we interact with each other in general, but with kids too. But you're yelling, it's more from passion and intensity. And that's something that like I think is important. I think put it this way, at least I can't speak for every kid, but Jackson was never nervous playing for you out of a fear of getting yelled at. He didn't want it for him. His nerves, whenever he was nervous, it was because he didn't want to let you down, not because he was afraid of getting yelled at, but because he wanted to win so bad for you because he bought into to you.
Exactly.
And that's what I think is great. Versus, and this is kind of why like the bigger issue here with the yelling thing is like there are guys. I mean, you probably know a couple, personally from the basketball circuit down there who are just yellers for the sake of yelling. Ones that are cursing at kids. Like and again, they'll say probably that they're trying to do it to because they're intense or whatever. But to me, that I don't know. There's a way to do it that doesn't bring anybody down, and that's how you go about it. And that's why I loved coaching with you because we had the good cop, bad cop thing going on, which was great.
100%.
And it's funny because you were talking about yelling and being on the court. I don't know if you remember, there was one game, it was a female ref, and I don't remember her name, but she was bugging out because you kept coming out onto the court and stepping in her way. And I remember her telling me, she's like, you better keep him off that court or I'm going to wind up throwing him out. And I looked at me and I looked at you. I was like, yeah, lady, I'm glad you think I have a shot at, of keeping him.
Oh, my goodness. It's just like when I'm like I said, I'm emotional and I get into the game and I love it though, and I just want all the kids, just to feel the same energy, feel the same energy and just make sure you're out there. And it's about letting them know how to do their job. And sometimes you got to pick them up, yell at them. And then sometimes, you got to pull them to the side and you got to talk to them. So,
but it's hard too, and that's something I've respected about you and your coaching philosophy is you do manage to give every kid their fair share of time. But what drives me nuts with the kid like that you mentioned as the example is it's unintentionally selfish because now you have to pull your full attention away from the other however many kids are on the team to focus on this one kid, and especially when it's like a repeat offender sort of thing or whatever, and that's
definitely.
like that can derail or demotivate kids too because it's like, oh, here he goes again, and it's tough to sort of like strike that balance, I guess.
Yeah, it is. And just like you said, you don't want to take too much time out because like I said, we're dealing with times with the clock, we're dealing with parents on the sideline, we're dealing with the refs, so you're dealing with a whole bunch of aspects in between the times of that game. So it's
parents on the sideline. We never had any problem with any parents.
No, we didn't.
On our team.
No, I never had any no. Well, all my parents, honestly, I'd say any parents that I coached, I always had great relationships. That's the parents are the bigger. They're like they're on the team with us. So it's like you really feel like. I know some coaches like, what, I don't deal with the parents. Right. I don't deal with the parents. And I get that aspect, but the kids have to get there to the game. The kids have to get there to, practices and stuff like that. And there has to be communication. And, I like dealing with the parents. I do. I have no problem with it. I have a kid that's on my AAU team the mom, she's a single mother. She's working like 2 or 3 jobs and stuff like that. I go pick them up for practices, games, stuff like that. And we have a beautiful communication, like I'll text her in the morning, like, listen, we got a game. I don't know if you saw it in the app or whatever, but I understand she's really busy and, she works a lot of hours. So, that communication with parents and, like I'll go out for a limb for a kid, for a game. Matter of fact, I had a kid that, I had a parent that wanted to put their son on my team, but they didn't have, matter of fact, he lives up in Middletown, up in Middletown. And the parent couldn't get him to practices and stuff like that and I told him, I was like, well, we have our practice. I'll come up and get him. Like I have no problem, like, extending myself out, especially when it comes to a kid because, the game of sports is just so beautiful and, it teaches you so much about life. And sometimes parents need that extra help. And then, like I said, if I have that time, I'll definitely go out and do it.
Yeah, and that's just it. Like, you're more than a coach. Or, again, something that some people don't realize is, like, as coaches, we're more than just coaches, right? And there's a sliding scale to it. You clearly are super admirable for taking it as far as you do, because it sounds like in certain instances you're like a secondary father figure, right? Or a parental support, which is crazy, which is, I don't know. It like you said, it goes beyond just the sports aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely. I like I said, I make sure, like I said, the kid that I pick up, we talk. I ask him about how school going on and stuff like that. Me and the mom, we talk. Like, listen, if he's ever in this situation, he's not doing well, please let me know. Like, so I could talk to him and stuff like that. Because, she like I said, she works a lot of hours, and, she doesn't have that full support. So I'm like I said, if I have the time, I always make my way out to, do anything I can for him.
Yeah, and I love, it's so funny. I didn't think of it until just now, but I remember a couple of different instances where, like, the kids were screwing around during practice. This was for AAU.
Yeah.
And you ripped into them, not because they were, messing around or wasting your time.
Yeah.
You were pissed because they were wasting the parents' time. And I remember you like, the gym got real quiet, and you were telling them, like, your parents are coming after, after work, they're holding off making dinner, they still got to do all this stuff. And not only that, there was another time too where you were talking about the importance of doing well in school and everything, like, and that's why, like, there's levels to it, right? And you ain't just collecting a paycheck. You're not just doing it for, to get. You're not a daddy coach or a daddy ball guy.
Yeah, no.
There's none of that. I mean, so it's funny. That's another thing that I loved and respected about working with you is we take the same approach. Like, for me, I try to treat every kid equally, but that's definitely a lie, because any kid that's mine that I'm coaching is like bottom of, and I like you. Not that you yell, at the kids, but anytime there was a Preston, it was always, it just had something extra to it. And it was just funny because I knew so much gets communicated in just that one, the one word.
That, and he knows. He knows.
Right. And he's got to test you because that's just how it goes. But, all right, we can always edit this out if this is an issue. But in my entire time in basketball, I've only had a problem with one other parent. And that was a problem we both had with a guy who was, and listen, we've both had to have navigated, complaints about playing time, favoritism and whatever. Yeah. And that drives me nuts because I think we take the same approach. We try to be as fair as possible with playing time. But depending on what the level is, like, it's also earned. Like, if you're playing well, definitely. But we still, at least I'm biased clearly because we work together and it's just different. But, like, I think we always did a good job of making sure, the kids were getting fair share time.
Definitely.
And rotating starters or whatever. But the long story short version of it for the people listening was it was a new season. And for the first 2 games, both of our sons didn't start. We had the 2 new kids come in. So it was even more ludicrous that the accusations of the daddy ball stuff came through. But what made it funny and worth mentioning here was the guy was apparently bad-mouthing the 2 of us, like hardcore, nonstop for the entirety of the 3rd game, because I don't even know if Jackson started. I think maybe Princeton came in and that kid didn't start. But what the guy didn't realize was both of our wives were sitting right behind him, and my wife was recording the entire game.
Heard everything.
And so, but I bring that up because she was our special ladies were not happy. Let's just put it that way.
No, not at all.
And I knew Heather wasn't going to let it go. So, especially when she showed me the video and she was like flipping out. And I was like, all right, so we have to address this just to make it clear that it is what it is. And so I ran it by you, made sure that I have the all clear just to talk to him because it was the video that we had.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, the guy's first instinct was, I didn't mention the video initially. Like, so of course he went into denial mode and was like, no, I didn't say anything. And then I showed him and it was wild. Like, you could see the wheels turning. He was trying to figure out, like, how to blame it out. And do you remember what he wound up going with? What the final thing was?
What was that? That was, I'm trying to think.
He blamed his wife. He said that he threw her under the bus, and he was like, "Oh yeah, no, she was upset, and I was just,
trying to accommodate."
Yeah. Nah. So, but the reason I bring it up was we had to navigate that, and we went through, I thought, a successful season thereafter. Like, and that's the thing, because people need to understand, confrontation's not something that you need to avoid. It just has to be constructive. Like,
definitely.
And there was no screaming, there was no yelling. I just let the guy know, hey, listen, I'm sorry you felt that way. I disagree. And I wasn't upset that he was saying it about me. I was upset or more offended that he was saying about you, because we had been together for a couple of seasons at that point. I knew you would never like that.
100%.
And again, all the Pristons,
Oh my
he's
goodness.
he's the last one on the list of favorites, in terms of like
Yeah.
special stuff or whatever. But it's funny, and I appreciate that you have that mindset where you are open to dealing with the parents, because it's so bad for me now that I have to go. I stand by myself at these games. I have the AirPods in, blasting music, because
Yeah.
I have to tune it out, because I get it's
Yeah,
just an accumulation.
it's really tough. I just went through a situation past winter season with a parent, and it was really kind of rough for me because I really never had this happen to me before. I've seen it with other coaches. I'll start from the beginning. When we had our tryouts, the kid came on, and I was like, you know what? I always get a project kid. I see potential in the kid, and I was like, okay, this kid could definitely help this team, and we get the kids that's on our team, 100% make him better. So, the kid made the team and everything, and went to our first tournament. It was a tough tournament, and I just wanted to see how this kid will respond and stuff like that. So he got real limited minutes, because at the time, it's when you're not ready for that type of speed. It's always good to sit on the sideline and watch, and see what we're doing and everything. And again, like I said, this was our first tournament, so put him out there a couple times, and he just wasn't ready for that speed. So what happened was, the next day we had to go back out there, and this was in Philadelphia. And what happened was the kid that I always pick up and stuff like that, he spent the night at my house, because I was like, you know what, there's no need for it. We're going back up to Philadelphia tomorrow. I was like, you just spend the night. Tell your mom you get your stuff. And so he spent the night and everything. Left, went back up to Philly. Pull up. It was like 15 minutes before the game. It was our first game right there. Asked all the Princeton and other kid. I was like, listen, do you have your sneakers and stuff like that? Get them out, get them ready. I forgot my sneakers.
No.
He forgot his sneakers. Oh my goodness. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So my wife was like, you know what? It's 15 minutes. She checked on her phone. She said there's a Foot Locker about 2 miles. She said, listen, you go take Princeton. I'm going to take him. We're going to Foot Locker. I'm getting the cheapest pair of sneakers that we can get. And then I was like, all right, you know what, that's going to have to work. So, boom, got in, warmed the kids up. The game had started. We were about maybe 5 minutes into the game. All right, the kid came running in, stuff like that. He has his sneakers on. He comes right up to me. He said, Coach, I'm ready to get in. I said, all right, calm down. Go to the end of the bench.
Right.
Start stretching. All right. So time goes on. So then I know he's a kid I need. He's a very defensive kid. He puts up big shots for me at times. He's one of the kids too. He gets in his head a lot, but he's really aggressive, and he's been with me for about maybe 2.5 years now. So I put him in. I put him in the game. And matter of fact, after he finished stretching, he was like I said, I told him to sit down. So it was about another maybe like 4 minutes before I put him in the game. So game's going back and forth. I'm going back and forth on the bench, looking to see what I could put in, substitution, stuff like that. So I look for this kid, and the kid is gone. So I'm like, where's this kid at? So one of my players said, oh, the dad just came and grabbed him and took him off the bench and said, you're a horrible coach and this and that, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whoa, Okay. All right. Let me just stay focused into this game.
Yeah.
Went through this game. Everything was good. Like I said, we played a tough team. I think it was Team Sham God.
Oh,
And
God.
just lost. We lost by. Matter of fact, we played them the first game that we played them in. We lost by 3 points, and then we lost by 1 point in that game. So it was tough. It was a good game though. Very good game. Very high intensity. Coach was a high intensity, just like me, yeller and stuff that. So it was cool. But after the game, I was like, of course, I didn't see none of the parents, none of the boys' parents and nothing like that. They had just took them and left. And then that's when all the other parents started coming to me saying like, yeah, he just took him off the team. And the wife was just, upset, talk about, he better not put that other kid in that just came in late. This and that. I'm like, huh? Like, listen, I get it. Parents have way too much expectation of their kid at times, and I get it, but it's a process that you go to. The kid just got on our team. He's starting to learn our sets, everything, stuff. And this, like, again, this speed was too fast for him. And like I said, not taking away that he's probably going to be a great player, once going through. And but the thing that really hurt me was that I heard that the kid was crying when he was leaving. And that got to me because, like I said, I do this for the kids. I don't do this for the parents. I don't do this, just for accolades or whatever. So I was really touched by that because all the kids loved this kid. Like he fit right in, and it was tough. So I went on the group text and I said my piece. And usually, I really don't. And it's funny, the director and the assistant director, they're on the app too to get the messages. Yeah. So they just started calling me like, yo, you can't do this. Like, what do you do? I'm like, but it's like, when it comes to the kid and it affects the kids, that's when I it's just like, yo, what are you doing? So, like I said, it was a long message. And I think I went back and forth, and then I think the next day I went back and forth again, and then what, I just like, okay, let me just stop. Because, I don't want it to get too out of hand, but I just kind of wanted to make a point, and a lot of my things that I said in the message, I was like, listen, you have to take time and understand where this is going. Especially with your child. You can't have too much expectation. You can't put him, you can't just think that he's ready when he's not ready. I've been doing, I've been around sports so long with my oldest son, with now with Princeton. So it's I've seen a lot. I've seen parents literally after games take a kid in the bathroom because he didn't play and just start punching him and getting in his face because he's not playing to their expectation, So it's that was a tough one for me. Like I said, I've seen it done before, but I never, ever had a parent to come and just snatch a kid like that off the bench.
And it sends all the wrong messages to that kid.
100%.
And what sucks is, listen, nobody wants to see their kid struggle, and nobody wants to see their kid in a situation where they think they're not valued or not utilized or whatever. Yes. But like you said, it's a process. I mean, the Sixers ruined that phrase for everybody. Yeah, I know, but I mean, that's what it is, and you have to buy. That's the problem. Is I think people don't understand. There's a longer game here, and there's ebbs and flows to it too. It's not I guess they think they try out for this team, they make the team, and that's it. They're going to be a starter. The kid's never coming out.
Or it's like I said, this is not travel. This is AAU. They think they should get as many time-wise as other kids and stuff like that. Especially if he's not you just got to understand the process. And like you said, the Sixers messed that up with that saying. But you know, it's a true statement.
And that's what kills me is every program that we've ever been a part of tells you up front. Like there's not really much paperwork to sign at all, really, you know, with AAU. But it's stated at some point, playing time is not guaranteed.
Yes.
Everybody's cool with it on that first day until their kid's not getting the amount of playing time. And that was, funny enough, with the guy that we had the problem with, this was like the 5th program that he was on because all of the other ones, it was the same issue. His kid wasn't getting enough playing time, And what kills me with it is, again, it's a bigger picture thing where it's not just about the games it's not just about the games themselves. It's not just about being on the court. You can learn a lot from
just sit
being
on
the
sideline, just watching. It just supporting your team.
Right. And going to practice is as important as the games because that's where the learning really happens.
Yep.
Games are where you put your practice into play.
Yes.
You know? And so I'm glad you mentioned your older son because that was something that I was curious about. So you've been through this once already. Congratulations on that, by the way, because he's a senior now, right?
Yeah. He's a graduate. 5th season. This is 5th season.
Oh, it's 5th season.
Yeah. He had the COVID season, so it's good though. Like I said, matter of fact, they played their last game yesterday for the regular season, so they made it into the tournament.
He's at what, Scranton? Or?
Yeah, he's at Scranton. Yep, he's at Scranton.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm really proud of him. Like, you know, I've learned damn near everything from him. You know, like whether just watching, coaching, whatever, stuff like that, and like he just from just through him and the process that he went through, like playing football, basketball. That's the only way I'm able to do what I'm able to do because
he did both as well.
Yeah, he played both as well. Yep.
So what I'm curious, I guess, first question I have is now that you're going through it a second time, a couple of questions connected to that. I'm assuming you've learned certain things the first time around because unfortunately the firstborns, man, they're the guinea pigs. They always get,
it's tough.
Most of the mistakes that I've made, at least I made with Tim first, and I've tried not to make. I still make plenty of mistakes with all 3 kids, but certain ones don't get repeated because you learn from the first. So you said that you've learned a lot from that experience working with him. How different is it now in terms of what you're experiencing coaching tackle and AAU and travel basketball versus when you went through it the first time? Like, is it different? Is it still like the same?
I honestly say it is kind of still the same. You know, it's how can I put this? It's the stages are just a little different. You know, like the part of like, you know, dealing with the organization part, like the politics part. But, you know, like the gameplay, the gameplay and the speed has picked up. The speed has picked up. And like, again, like, you know, you have, back then, like we wouldn't even think of playing like, in basketball, man to man. Like, you got 3rd graders playing man-to-man, great man-to-man. Like, it's just like, it's great for the league because, you know, at the end of the day, you're going to have to play that anyway. But, you know, me, I'm sorry. I'm a big zone guy. I'm sorry.
Did you use the diamond press back then, too? Or?
Oh, yeah. 100%. 100%. I fell in love with it. First time I saw that was, I have a good friend of mine that my oldest son played for, and he ran it, and I was just like, yo, look at this. And they used to get so many steals, and the kids just loved it. And, like, you know, if you play it right, it's a tough. And you put the right kids in those positions, it's a long day for a team.
So most of the biggest chunk of my coaching experience with basketball was more rec, right? And that's because that's where most kids started. I mean, my kids wouldn't have been ready for travel or anything without that. And part of that experience of coaching rec is you get kids that aren't. The skill level is completely different.
Definitely.
And so I never wanted any of those kids like for me, a successful season wasn't an undefeated season. It wasn't, who scored the most points or whatever.
Yeah.
If I had every kid want to come back and play again, whether for me or just in general, that was a success because you had so many of these daddy ball coaches who focused on their kid alone, and you could tell like there were kids that never got into the games, whatever it was. That was never going to be me.
Yeah.
And what I realized very quickly was basketball is a very technical, heavy, sport. Like if you can't dribble, it's going to be tough, right?
Yeah.
But the one thing that everybody can do is defense.
Yeah.
And that's an effort thing. And I mean, even rebounding it to a lesser extent, but defense is where it locks in.
Yes.
And so I've always been a defensive minded guy first. Okay. And so when I got to see your press in action for the first time, like it wasn't even like there were 5 basketball players out there. It was like looking at the secondary, right? Like they looked like corners and safeties, and I was just blown away. And like, I mean, that I don't know the guy's name. You know him. I think it was the Heat team that we played. We had that one season where we played them like 6 times in a 7-game thing. And I felt so bad because it's the older guy. I don't know his name.
Yeah, Money. Yeah, they call him Money. Yeah, right. He's good.
And man, like, because he wanted his kids to play well, but they were just cooked. Like there was nothing that could get past.
It was tough. It was tough for them though. But it's like I tell you right now, him like when we went through those stages, his teams got so much better. And that's what you want though. You want your team, regardless of the fact, especially when it comes to basketball, to know how to deal with that uncomfortableness. Because that's what I like to do. I like to make teams uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, and that press definitely does it.
Yeah, and like I said, if you make teams uncomfortable, and they don't know how to respond to it, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day.
And to be fair, right, we've been on the receiving end of it a bunch of times. We had the Atlantic City tournament where, and that's just it. There's levels to it. And that's what kills me with the parents is this, I don't know, like I think it's like people wear like a travel basketball team or an AAU team as like a badge of honor. Like, oh, my kid's on an A team, my kid's on this or that. But again, when you're playing the same local teams or whatever, that's one thing. When you go out to Philly, when you go out to New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Baltimore, wherever, and you see the caliber of teams that are out there, it's different, man. Like,
and it's like, listen, you could look at a team, and I always said, I've done that plenty of times, especially with my oldest son. I was looking at this team, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. We got this a cakewalk. They only got 6 kids. Those 6 kids will run you out the building so fast because they're locked in, they're focused, you could tell they practice well. Everything that they do is just, you're like, look at it. They're not missing shots.
Right.
Like we can't, how did this go? Like, it's just, that's how the game of life is. You can't judge a book by its cover, and you got to be able to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And judging books by covers, I see you've got a Niners cup over there. That's been a rough go recently.
Tough.
Although,
tough.
Although I'm sure there are Cowboys fans who would say it's a good problem to have with the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say the envy of the league, but definitely like to me, San Francisco is one of those teams like the Steelers. Like there's just certain organizations that are just well run from top to bottom.
Yeah.
But you grew up in like you're a Jersey guy initially, right?
Yep.
So I gotta how did the Niners come into play as a favorite
when
team?
the 49ers played the Miami Dolphins in the Super Bowl, and it was crazy. It was like usually like my family during that time, we have like a Super Bowl party. Even back then, like we had people come over. I was watching the game by myself, and I guess my parents love. My father's a big Giant fan, Giants and Jets fan, and he wasn't too happy about the Super Bowl. His team's not in there, so he's just off doing whatever he's doing, talking to other people. But I'm downstairs watching the game, and I'm like, this gold and red is just beautiful. Like these guys, and like I started watching the game, locking in. I said, Montana and Rice and this Roger Craig, like, look at these guys, like, and I just fell in love. After that, it was just, I'm a Niners fan.
Yeah.
I'm a Niners fan, yep.
That's great. And like, I don't know, it's frustrating to see a roster like they've had. I know it's sort of like a left turn from the AAU thing, but I was curious.
No,
like,
it's cool. It's
like
cool.
Christian McCaffrey I feel bad for him because he's another one of those guys that if he's healthy,
my goodness,
he's like unstoppable. But it's getting harder and harder for him to stay out on the field.
It's tough.
Are you sold on Brock Purdy as the quarterback?
I like Brock. I really do. And, Brock came into a perfect situation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the last quarterback to be drafted, to get drafted in. And I think it's just a process thing, again, as far as, like, you could tell he's getting better. But, the first year, of course, for her first seasons, they didn't have any tape on him or nothing like that. But, he had great weapons around him. So, he was able to. And the coach, like I said, he utilized a lot of the weapons really well. Like, putting Deebo Samuel in the backfield and stuff like that.
Deebo is another guy, right?
Yeah. So hopefully he stays. I don't know what's going on with him. But, I just think that the only thing I really don't like about Brock Purdy is, like, he gets so many batted balls down. He's small. Like, right. I really like him getting out the pocket. So,
he's mobile enough.
Yeah, definitely. So I think if we could do that more with him, I think we'll be more successful.
Yeah, because who was he backing up initially? Was it Jimmy G?
Yeah, it was Jimmy G.
Or Kaepernick?
No. It was Jimmy G.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
I mean, it's funny because everybody fell in love with him when he was in New England, but I think Purdy just out of the gate was a better fit for the Niners. And
definitely.
Long term, I think the solution there.
Yeah, but as far as Super Bowls, I can't really be mad. You know why? Because they were great Super Bowls. At least you didn't have a Super Bowl like the Eagles. That wasn't a good Super Bowl right there. Well, for the Eagles fan, it was, and for, like, Kansas City haters, definitely. But I like to see a good game, regardless.
See, for guys like me and Doug, like, it's always that affair. Like, as Vikings fans, it's,
I know, right?
Like, there were only 2 times, I'm turning 42 in a couple weeks. In 42 years, there were only 2 things. There's only 2 times that I actually had hope, like real hope that we were going to make it. I haven't even seen them play in the Super Bowl. I think it was 98, right? Remember Culpepper and Moss?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
15-1.
Tough.
And that was, I'll never forget Morton Anderson lining up for the kick. It was against the Falcons.
Yeah.
And the announcer going, he's, 42 for 42 for the season. He's never missed within, 40 yards or whatever.
They always get it.
They got him, yeah. And then the Falcons went on and, whatever.
Yeah.
But the one that really killed me was, for whatever reason, I was a huge Brett Favre guy. I just loved the way that he played for the Packers. I couldn't stand the Packers,
definitely.
but I just loved watching him, flinging around. So when he came to the Vikings and we had the season that we had, I was like, oh, this is it. And Tim was just born, so I'm watching the NFC Championship game with a newborn on my chest. I had to make sure, and it's funny, Heather had to remind me, she's like, don't get too excited, because she was afraid I was going to springboard him up and over the TV. But we had the ball, we were down 1 or 2. I mean, it was basically a chip shot field goal. All Favre had to do was just hand it off, and he didn't, and Bounty Gate and all that. I mean,
yeah,
it was what it was. So
I got some Viking fans. I got a guy at my job. He's a big Viking fan. He said he can't watch football no more. He said it just hurt. It's too hurtful. It's too hurtful.
The most painful experience that I've had as a Vikings fan was going to the Mall of America in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and seeing a Green Bay Packers team store in the Mall of America with a T-shirt that said Minnesota Vikings Super Bowl trophy case. And it was empty, obviously, with a bunch of cobwebs on it. I was like, are you kidding me right now? We're, 20 minutes from the stadium, and this is what I got to deal with.
Wow, that's crazy. How big? They said that's one of the biggest malls.
I'm pretty sure it's the biggest in the continental U.S. It's cool, man. It is huge. There's a theme park inside of the mall. I know they did the American Dream or whatever. So it's that kind of thing, but it's probably twice as big as that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now, in terms of your sons and football, obviously they both play. The fandom, where does that go? Like, what teams do they root for? And is it like a bonding thing for you and Princeton, at least now?
Oh, my goodness. Well, my household is like, it's split. We have two Patriot fans.
Patriot fans?
2 Patriot fans. 3 Two of my boys are Patriots fans. My wife and my other son is an Eagle fan. I had two stepsons also. They're Eagles fans, and me and Princeton were 49ers fan. I was able to wheel them.
Okay,
I tried to get my oldest one, and he's like, nah, y'all suck. It's not happening.
There were some lean years, right? Once Rice retired and Steve Young was gone, it was tough.
Tough. But the Eagles, like I said, my wife, she's happy, Eagles. And it's crazy. She's a Celtics fan, too. So she's winning crazy right now.
That's like, rough. Oh, she must be insufferable, man.
And
that's
I'm a Laker fan, so it's like, we go back and back. Like, anytime Lakers is playing, she's rooting for the other team. Anytime the Celtics playing, rooting for the other team. So it's like, it's bittersweet, though. But big congratulations. You got it right now.
So I've been promising Jackson a train trip to Boston. I did it when I was... It's the first time I ever traveled by myself. I was like 16 or 17. My sister lived up there, so I took the train. First time going into the city by myself. Wow. It was crazy. So that was just a special thing for me. And I was talking to Jackson about it a couple of years ago, and I was like, "Oh, that would be fun." Because an Amtrak train, it's different. It's not like a subway train. It's
definitely,
whatever.
Definitely.
And we were talking. I literally just booked it. It's 4:55. I booked it at like 2:55.
Nice.
So we're going there. We're going to Boston to watch the Heat play, which is our favorite team.
Nice.
And of course, we finally go to do it. Miami sucks, man. Like we lost Jimmy. Jimmy's gone. Tyler and Bam are there.
Yeah,
but
they're good.
But there was a time where the Celtics fans hated the Heat fans, and Miami hated Boston or whatever. And like we're not even a blip on the radar.
It's like rivalries. Like it's gonna be tough.
Tatum and Brown they may not even play.
Yeah, you're right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they're I mean, like I was just watching the game. They just played the Knicks, and I mean, like they literally look like they're solid. But you could tell defense is their main objective. I mean, like they're crashing the board, and look at the threes they're shooting. They're I think they're like the best three shooting teams in the league right now.
And he got old man Horford.
Yo, he's just up and down the court like he's a young boy. It's like,
which is crazy because then you see Tristan Thompson. Is he back with the Cavs? I don't even remember where he's at. But he's another one that and he's not an older guy. He looks older than Al Horford at the point. I think Al Horford probably looked like that at 14 or 15.
Exactly, right?
But so Laker fan. Did that hit around the same era? Because, the late 80s and...
Well, I got to give that to my brother. My brother was a Laker fan. I mean, he had Laker posters all over the wall. He used to watch game, and I was like, what is this? And then it was Showtime. And Showtime came, and it was like, wow, what is this? Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I mean, the guys, they're just...
How do you have those guys on the same team at the same time?
It's crazy. And it was like, oh my goodness. Hey, at the time, you guys got Pat Riley after a while and stuff like that. He's a great-minded coach. The Lakers, I just fell in love with them, purple and yellow.
Yeah. No, that's great, man. And another organization, I mean, listen, to me, like, there are teams that everybody hates on principle. And I mean, I don't hate them. I'm saying, like, the casual sports fan usually can't stand the Yankees, the Lakers, and the Cowboys. Because
definitely.
The casual sports fan, those are the only teams that they know, or at least, stereotypically back in the day. That's what it was.
Yeah.
But what's funny is, with the exception of the Cowboys, because that is just dysfunction like you wouldn't believe.
My goodness.
They're well run. The GMs are great. I mean, I'm not a big Rob Pelinka fan, versus like the Niners, right? Like, do you like John Lynch as a GM?
Oh yeah, I do. I like him. I like what he's done. And you could just tell, like, he came in and helped change that locker room.
Exactly. He started to really shift the culture there because they had before Kaepernick. Oh, I guess it was even before him. It was like Jeff Garcia. I'm trying to think of the guys. He wasn't a culture guy. Like there wasn't much for them to rally around.
Yeah.
And now you've got Kyle Shanahan at the helm.
Yeah.
Who seems to be, on board, which is so funny because then you look at Nick Sirianni, like last year for the Eagles. Like, I mean, I was expecting him to get fired every week.
Yeah.
It looked like they were on the brink of just collapse, and they managed somehow to keep it together and turn it around.
Well, yeah, getting Saquon Barkley. Yeah,
Saquon helped. Saquon definitely
oh my goodness, helped. But you could tell, like, they had trust in him, and you know what? he got the job done.
I got to tell you, Saquon going there, as much as I love Miami and as much as I love Minnesota, I have just as much disdain for the New York Giants and for the New York Knicks.
Why?
The Giants ripped my heart out because they beat the Vikings one year. It was 41-0 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That was another year. Like, the Giants shouldn't have even made it. And the Vikings were like the favorite going in. You know, they were supposed to make it all the way that year. So
Did the Giants win it that year?
Was it 07? It might have been 07.
Yeah, I think they did because I think they were on the road at every game.
Freaking Eli Manning. Man, he always looked confused. Kill me. Like, no matter what was happening, he just had that look. But I've come to terms with it. I'm at peace with Eli now and all that. And it's funny because I'm weird. Like, I didn't grow up in like a sports household, so all my affiliations and stuff. It's kind of why they're all over the place.
Yeah.
And again, being a Vikings fan, like, I got tired of not watching a team I liked in the playoffs, so I wound up getting into the Panthers at one point.
Okay.
Seattle, because again, it was just different teams and eras. Like that one year with Jake Delhomme, when they took him to the Super Bowl, freaking Vinatieri, man.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't even Vinatieri, it was John Casey who kicked it out of bounds. We had the lead, and Casey kicked it out of bounds at like whatever it was. So Brady got it at the 40 to start that final drive, man.
Yep.
I couldn't believe it. But the reason I like the Panthers, same way I got into it with the Heat, they I'm pretty sure it was the very next season, they shut out the Giants 41-0, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is great. But when I was a kid, it shows you how nerdy I was. The first I heard of basketball was through one of them stupid like reader magazines or something they would give us in elementary school, and it was an article about Muggsy Bogues. And at the time, I was the same height he was. He was like whatever 5'1" or 5'3", and so was I. And I was like, well, maybe I could play basketball one day.
Maybe.
So he was with the Hornets, obviously, and then like NBA Jam was like a huge thing at the time coming out. So like playing as Hugo the Hornet, I was all in on like the whatever it was, the purple and teal, right?
Yeah.
And so then I started to watch it, and again, that team, right? Zoe, Larry Johnson, Muggsy Bogues, Del Curry, Glenn Rice was with them.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, this is great. And they lost to the Knicks. And I was so crushed because that was my first real sports heartbreak. I was like, whatever team beats the Knicks is going to be my new team. And that was the 1 year Miami actually beat them in it. And so then that was it.
Wow. And then Zoe went there too.
Yeah. Right. It was, and Glenn, I guess Glenn Rice was with us before that. I don't remember what his order of operations was there, but no, and because all the asshole kids in school were all Knicks fans because I grew up in Brooklyn, so it helped that I'm like, oh, and these guys are upset now. Yes, let's go. Thank you, Pat Riley.
Love it.
I appreciate it.
Man, yeah, but for Saquon, I'm like, listen, Giants, you could at least send him somewhere else. Why would you send him into the same division? Why would you want to see him twice?
Right. Well, and I mean, this is the only thing I can think of. I genuinely think they thought that he was going to be a non-factor. Yeah. And they probably weren't even worried about seeing him again, which, I mean, come on, man. Anybody with two eyeballs.
He went to Penn State.
Right.
Philly already loves him. He went to Penn State. Like, what are you doing?
No, but he seemed, obviously I knew about him just from the performance side of it, but like he seems like a good dude just in general.
I couldn't be more happy for him.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Like, just to see and how he handled everything. Like, so it's funny. What's your take, just as a football fan in general, on them not playing him to get the rushing record in the final game of the regular season?
I'm not upset about that though. You know what? Don't give me. I think it goes as far as how the team goes. Like, again, that's something that he would get alone. And of course, I know if he got the record, he would definitely think his offensive line and everybody. But when it comes down to it, it's about the team. You have to make it about the team. As coaches, as players, you have to think it's about the team. You can't take on. Like, I don't know. Maybe he definitely probably would have got like more money if he would have got the record or something like that. But
I think that's the exact reason why they didn't, was because of what happened the year before, right? Where they had an injury in the. I don't remember what the circumstance was. I don't know if they were going for a record or whatever it was. They just didn't want a repeat of that, which I get. But devil's advocate, I'm thinking of the O-line. I'm thinking of those guys because if he gets that record, wearing an Eagles uniform in that season. And
Yeah.
obviously it doesn't mean as much if they don't go all the way.
Yeah.
But they could have easily just knock on for the record and lost the Super Bowl. They just happened
Yeah.
to win it. But forever, those guys know that like when that team gets talked about, that accomplishment gets talked about, it's with them.
It's with the Eagles.
And you know, I don't know, like the only issue that I had, because I forgot that they added the 18th game, right? So like
Yeah.
it's one of those weird things where, you know, you had the 14 game season in the 80s. I don't know when that changed exactly, but it used to be 14 games
Yeah.
and then it was 16 games and now it's 17
Yeah.
or 18, whatever. And so again, there's like an asterisk thing. Like it's tough. Like if he edged him out by, because it's Eric Dickerson's record with what, 2105, something like that?
I think so.
So if he wound up with
Yeah.
like 2106, but took an extra game to do it, I don't know.
Yeah,
You know,
I
it's
feel
one of
you.
those. It's one of those weird things.
Yeah, I
like,
feel you. I
so,
feel you on that.
so that was the only thing for me where it was just like if he had done it in 16 games.
16
then,
games, yeah.
All right,
yeah,
you know,
definitely.
I don't know. Yeah, but sports are weird, man. Like, and people are funny with like records and stuff like that. And,
Yeah, just don't. Listen, especially if they're winning, they looked it so dominant. You know what I'm saying? It's like a record. I think a record to them would not be like, listen, we want to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We're not worried about no record. And they got there and they just, oh my goodness, like that front four was truly like one of the best experiences I've seen. It was almost just like that Todd Bowles Tampa Bay, like how they kept Pat Mahomes on the run.
Right.
Like he could not get comfortable. You could tell they couldn't even get over the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
In the first half, like it was crazy. Like
It was a masterful performance. I was shocked that I wasn't shocked that they were winning. You know, from a point standpoint.
Yeah.
When you looked at the statistics at the half of total yardage, Mahomes, you know, what did he throw for like 53 yards or
That's
something?
crazy.
Like that's insane. And I don't know if I ever told you this. So we were, I mean, I got tired of the Chiefs winning, so we were, you know, pulling for the Eagles, but mostly because of Slay. So Slay, it was just a fluke thing. Our kids train for basketball at the spot called Hoop Lab in Freehold,
Okay.
and I think it was 2 or 3 times I roll into the parking lot and there's this G-Wagon, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this, I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I can tell it's pretty expensive. And it's parked real close to the lab. Huh.
Yeah.
And we walked in and Slay was there with his kids. And his
Really?
kids were
Wow.
training. So it was Jackson and Sarah and then his 2 kids.
Okay.
And I didn't know who he was. Like, I didn't recognize him initially. And I could just kind of tell that, like, whatever, that he was the guy with the
with the G-Wagon.
SUV. And I'm sitting there and, you know, whatever, I go outside, I don't say anything, you know, I leave, and Jackson and Sarah come out and they're like, oh, that guy was really nice. I said, oh, the other dad who was there. They're like, yeah, he kept coming over to us and telling us like how great our left hands were, and he was really impressed with how good we were at finishing, you know, with our lefts as a right-hander. And then afterwards, it was the next day that the guy called me and was like, "That was Slay." I was like, "Oh my god!"
Wow, really?
Like, so now I could say that my kids got complimented by a Super Bowl champion,
Right?
which is great.
That's awesome.
But dude, it was so funny because he was there one more time, and like you could tell that he's just that kind of competitive guy.
Yeah.
He was talking so much shit to the trainer about basketball.
Really?
He's like, man, we were on a court. I'd be taking your ass to, yeah. He didn't even play ball, but
Competitive.
like, yeah.
Such a competitive.
And what is it about wide receivers and then corners and safeties, I guess, that like have that, like, I guess it's just a part of the mentality.
Yeah, but you got to be a dog. I mean, like, that is corners, safeties. They're like one of the hardest positions. I think the hardest positions on a football field.
I don't think there's more asked of them than, like, because even the quarterback, like, yeah, you know, like you got Peyton Manning back in the day who's reading everything and then audibling, doing that. Most guys aren't. They're getting to play, you know, in the headset. And yes, they got to scan as they go, but like, I don't know, the wide receivers have to react to so much. And dude, there's so much holding and jersey grabbing and hand.
Yeah, it's all check. Oh my
to
goodness.
be able, like the catches that these guys make with all that going on, it's on another
Yeah,
level.
it's amazing.
Oh, wait,
it really is.
I don't think I ever asked you this. Did you play? What was your personal sports background as a kid? Did you play growing up?
I played football. I played for Monmouth Regional. I played my freshman year, sophomore year. I didn't play because I was messing up in school. But then I played my 11th and 12th grade year. Yep. My position for my freshman position, I always played corner, but my freshman position, I was a second string quarterback, and then I was second string running back for my 11th and 12th year.
Wow, that's good.
That was good. It was good. It was good. Matter of fact, I was behind. Oh my God, this guy was amazing. His name's Jason Cameron. He caught a lot of injuries, but I'm telling you, if this guy didn't catch the injuries, he was definitely going far.
Wow.
Yeah. Matter of fact, his son plays for St. Rose. Tyler Cameron. Yeah.
Oh, yep. Well, St. Rose football.
No. St. Rose basketball.
Oh, really?
Yeah, basketball. Yeah.
Oh,
I think his father was like, you know what, we're gonna stay to basketball because you don't want to catch these injuries in football. So, but yeah, I mean, he was great. I mean, one of the guys that get to the sideline and all of a sudden you just see him just beat one player, 2, 3, 4, and it's like toe to toe with the safety, and then he just breaks.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's Princeton.
Yeah.
On the court. That's how it used to be. And it's crazy. Like with him too, it blew me away. I didn't, because he was the same size as Jackson, and I didn't realize he was a year younger. Like, but it's so what is he? Yeah, and I haven't seen him all that recently, but he definitely he's getting more muscular. Like he's filling out. Right?
Yeah. He's losing a little bit of weight now too, which is good because he just running around with this pop belly and he's heavy and he.
Oh, I didn't realize.
He likes to use his body and stuff like that, but he's doing good. He's getting his ball handling up way better. We're able to have him more at point guard. Well, that's the thing too. On my AAU team, I gotta put him more at a point guard. I like to put him at the 2 guard a lot, but it's good for him to be able to bring the ball up and be able to control the court. Just in case you got to be in that position. So he's doing great though.
And what's great with him too is he's a great balance of natural talent. Like I said, like I told you before, just his strides. Like you could just see the way that he moves out there. It's just different. And then he's got he's got the passion for it. He's got you. Like he's a kid, so he's definitely. He's an emotional kid, and it's but it's constructive. I keep using that word, but he just wants to win, and he's not a me kid. You know
what the part about is, and I had somebody tell me don't do that. At the end of the games we lose. He's balling out crying. I'm like, listen, you're walking in the line. Don't show the other team that you're crying. Don't give that to him and stuff. But, somebody told me, they said, you know what? Don't take that passion from him. You know what I'm saying? He's going to learn. And I was like, you know what? All right, I'm going to try it. But it's hard to do,
You just gave me a flashbulb memory. Fix your face. Yeah. Preston, fix your face. I started using it here because Jackson's not really like that, but Sarah being, emotional, almost teenager, the phrase gets some miles to it now, man, for sure. Definitely. But no, and it's funny, the only 2 kids that I've seen through, AAU, whatever, that I saw them out there and I was just like, holy shit, they're just athletes. Him and Zay. Zay is another one that, another great kid. Does he play with you guys anymore? Or
No. He plays for BLB.
Okay.
But he still plays on the short shot teams in the leagues and stuff like that.
So he's another kid. And it's funny because he came, if I'm not mistaken, the first time he played basketball was playing for you, right?
Yeah, playing for me.
The short shots.
Yep.
I couldn't nobody could believe it that and until I got to know Doug, I thought he was busting balls, but he was legit, no, and you could just see he picked it up at such a pace. I've never seen a kid learn so quickly, and he was for me, he was really the centerpiece of that press because once it clicked, he could go sideline to sideline,
and that's what it is, though. That back guy, that guy that's at the 3-point line, he has to be like a free safety and just go get that ball, follow the ball.
Such an unselfish kid too. If he got it himself, he was going, but he would give it up. And that's,
definitely.
The passing ahead too. Yeah, we definitely we miss you guys, but Zay and Theo were our guys too. So shout out to them.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. That's guys. Big Taco.
Oh my God,
Big Taco.
And it's funny, and I appreciate. I was just thinking of this recently too. One of the most wild experiences we've had basketball wise was Jackson filling in for the Neptune travel team. It was you guys had
that's right.
Yeah, and it was a tournament thing, and I remember thinking like, is this all right? Like, are we allowed to do it? Because I didn't want to get you in trouble. You know, like obviously you knew that we weren't from Neptune.
I just needed players.
Yeah,
and like I said,
so my wife and I were like it's a tournament, like it's a little local tournament. Who's gonna know? Like whatever, right?
Yep.
Little did we know that you guys wound up winning the tournament, and not only did you win the tournament, but they took a freaking picture for the Neptune Travel Instagram page, and they had Jackson in it. And Jackson at the time had, well, he still has it, but the mohawk with the buzz, he stands out, man.
Oh
like,
my goodness!
And I was just I see this shit on Instagram, and we looked at each other and we're like, all right, this is tough to explain this one.
But listen, you know what though? It was great, and you know what, like Jackson he's such a coachable kid. I mean, like unbelievably coachable, and you know what? He has the confidence that, and I always tell kids that are short, like it's heart over height. You know what I'm saying? And he has the confidence he's not afraid to shoot. He's not afraid to, to make that extra pass or to do that, get on the ground, hustle. Like he got it, man. Definitely, 100%.
I appreciate you saying that, and it's killing me, right? Like same thing, same experience that Princeton had, I think, in that like Jackson always winds up being the youngest on the team.
Yeah.
And so when you compare him to these other kids, and I was doing it, he's played up on almost every team the last like year or two. So he was playing up on the 6th grade travel team for Hazlitt.
Okay.
That had 7 kids that are going to school with my daughter.
Oh, wow.
And he's standing out there, and he looks like, the goofy little brother, because I realized I'm like, oh, he's almost 3 years younger than those kids that are out there, and that's the thing. He's still short on the short side, but he doesn't play small. Yeah. And I'm hoping that I hope he's got a spurt somewhere.
That's good, though. Listen, if it happens, it happens. If it don't, just tell him to keep playing.
Yeah. And that's just it. It's a passion thing for him. He loves it. And, and I appreciate your role in his journey too, because he's one of the few kids that, like, you always hear the parents that say, oh, yeah, I want my kid to play in college or be professional, whatever. But all that comes from him. I mean, like, I probably told you, and I'm sure I've mentioned it here a bunch of times, like, nursery school, they could barely write. They had a form, and it was, what do you want to be when you grow up? Basketball player.
Wow.
That kid has never changed the answer to anything else.
Wow.
And listen, of course, all the haters or the naysayers say the same thing, like statistically, the odds or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what? Yeah, only 1% or 2% or whatever it is make it. That's got to comprise somebody. So why not him? And
100%.
And let's say he doesn't make it. If that's where he's shooting for, right? Because that's the thing. Him and my daughter both want to play in college. They both want to go to Princeton.
Wow.
And because they did the Nike camp out there. They just fell in love with all that.
Okay.
And the grades are there. We'll see what happens with the basketball side of it. But if that's what they're aiming for, and if they come up short, look how much further they're going to be.
Definitely.
So
definitely. And like I said, you got to have a goal. And, and at this age to have that type of goal, what's wrong with it?
Right. Yeah.
So.
No, and that's just it. Like, and I've always appreciated your perspective on it. You see the bigger picture. You motivate kids. You're the ideal coach, man. I'm glad that.
Listen, man, I appreciate you. You and your wife. You guys always been good. Jackson, after every game, he's always coming up, Coach, thanks, Coach. And I'm like, such a good kid, man.
And that's just him, man. I'm not one of those lunatic dads that are like, whatever, orchestrating it. Like he loved playing for you. And so again, you ever need a fill-in player? You got one.
I got a uniform for him.
But no
pictures this time though.
That's okay. We got all split. Now we don't care. But no, man, I appreciate you rolling through. This was a lot of fun.
No, definitely, man.
I think there's a lot of good information for people. So I appreciate you, and again for everything you did for us. And hopefully our basketball journey is not done together.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But
never know.
You got 5 fans from Hazlitt anywhere you're at. Man,
I appreciate you, man. Definitely.
But thank you, Sha Parland, for coming on, and thank you everybody for listening wherever and whenever you are.
Right.
Appreciate you.
No problem. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.